Hey there, welcome back to Reddit XO, the best channel for Reddit cheating stories. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for more stories like these. My 33 male wife, 32 female, said her ex's name while we were having sex. My wife and I have been married for 4 years, and we have a 2-year-old. We dated on and off for 3 years before getting married. Last night, she says her ex's name while we are having. She gave some weird excuse as to why. She said it's a common name. It is a very common name, and must have heard it recently. I wasn't going to start a big argument with her at that time. It has since gotten me worried about why she did that. For some background, this was a guy she was with for a couple of years before I met her. They met in college and were serious for some time. They had broken up when I met her and decided they were better as friends. They were friends for years before they dated. We started dating, but he remained in the picture. He was her best friend first and foremost, and I grudgingly went along with it for her. Several months pass, and I put my foot down, saying it's too uncomfortable for me. There was some resistance, but she steps back from him. Every time we broke up, she was with him. We finally reconciled and got engaged. He apparently didn't know this and stops talking to her. She was devastated, which should have been a red flag. We talked about it, and she was happy to have chosen me. Now, after this has happened, I'm tempted to see if she's gotten back in contact with him again. I know she's checked in on his social media because I saw the searches on the laptop. She doesn't know I know that. I don't think she'd cheat, but this guy was always different for her. Do I just confront her? Do I start going through her phone? Or am I being paranoid? Update. Thank you everyone for your help and advice. I did my investigating before talking to her. I went through his social media first, but nothing explicitly saying anything was going on. There were a few mentions of his love in some comments, but that could mean anything. I did look at the phone bill, and there looks to be calls with him pretty regularly. On to hers, I was able to get on her phone when she was asleep. She must have forgot I knew the code, nothing in texts, and no weird calls. So she deleted them. I did find some apps she tried to keep hidden like Snapchat and Kik. Sure enough, there's their conversations and pictures. I took pictures of all of it on my phone to have as proof. She exploded when we had the conversation and left with our child to her mother's. I contacted a lawyer and am in the process of a divorce and figuring out custody. I'm heartbroken and am more angry than anything else. I'm angry at her, but I'm also angry at myself for dismissing so many red flags. ETAs, the conversations I found were confirming they were having an affair. The pictures were ones they were exchanging, including nudes. Story 2. The love of my life cheated on me. What do I even do? My boyfriend and I have been in a very long-distance relationship for 4 years. We're both young students, 22 and 25, so we have very limited time and money. Because of this, we see each other once a year. One of us will come to the other's country to live for 2-3 months. I know it sounds rough, but it's honestly been amazing. We have wonderful communication, know literally everything about each other, and the distance makes every meeting that much more sweet. He's my best friend, and we love each other more than anything, and we've been saving money and planning to move in together the next few years. When we started dating, we were both very open about our baggage. I had just gotten out of a very toxic relationship with my ex, so I was very insecure, had pretty bad body image issues, and a mild eating disorder. He had recently broken up with his long-term partner Allison because she cheated, so he was quite insecure as well, which mostly manifested in extreme jealousy and possessiveness. We both realized the importance of working on these issues. I was the first to fix mine. Within the first 1-2 years of dating, I built up my confidence immensely and cut out all self-destructive behavior. He was a bit more slow, but in the last 2 years he showed incredible progress too. He's completely unrecognizable, has much more confidence, complete trust in me, and has become an incredible listener and communicator. I'm very proud of him and how much genuine effort he's put into being the best boyfriend possible. Before we were dating, my boyfriend was friends with Monica. Their relationship was very messy. They flirted but never dated. They had many shared interests but fought all the time, and it was overall quite toxic. Because of this, he had cut her out. Several months ago, my boyfriend brought up the idea of being friends with Monica again. I thought it was weird, but he justified it by saying that their fights were mostly teenage drama, and he might be wasting a good friendship by holding a grudge. I advised him against it, but ultimately left it for him to decide. Well, a little while after, he came to confess about something that was weighing him down. He basically admitted that he had been talking with Monica for the last 3 months and never informed me. He said he was afraid I'd be against their friendship, and after hiding it for a while, he panicked and didn't know what to do. The story definitely checked out. My boyfriend is a colossal idiot, and messing up in such a way was within his character. He had never lied or hidden anything before, though, so I was upset for a bit, but ultimately it turned into a big inside joke about he let me go through their messages to confirm nothing suspicious was happening. We laughed the whole situation off, and my boyfriend continued his friendship with Monica. I just couldn't bring myself to like her, though. I just had a weird gut feeling about her. He promised he'd cut her out if I ever asked him to, but I decided to ignore the feeling and not ruin the friendship. Eventually, things turned sour between the two. They started fighting and arguing again, and my boyfriend decided to cut Monica out for good this time. It was quite funny. I teased him about how I'm always right and how my gut feeling never lies. He laughed and agreed. Everything with Monica seemed to be over until she messaged me. Her message was mostly just clearing her name, talking about how my boyfriend portrayed her as the bad guy and so on. I was fully siding with my boyfriend until I read further. 2 things stood out. Monica said that my boyfriend had confided in her about our relationship issues. Yikes. And then, the real bombshell, my boyfriend had cheated on Allison with Monica. Yikes. I could somewhat justify the relationship talks, since we were having some troubles at that time, though it still felt likey. But the cheating was a huge shocker. I never imagined that my boyfriend could be a cheater, especially with how possessive and traumatized he was. Jokes and even mentions of cheating were pretty much forbidden for a long time in our relationship. To his defense, this happened before we were dating. He was much younger and more, and there's really no good way to tell your new partner, hey, I've actually cheated on my ex before. But still, knowing this shook me up, because it proved that his morals were pretty messed up, and he had justified cheating in the past. And knowing that he confided in the woman he had cheated on his ex would made me feel icky and uneasy. He apologized profusely. We both did a lot of sobbing. My boyfriend bawled the entire time about how horrible of a person he was for doing this, and how he's been carrying this weight his whole life. I spent pretty much the entire evening grilling him on everything. He had clearly shown his ability to hide things, so I wanted to be sure he wasn't hiding anything else. It's important to point out that when I asked about the relationship talk he had with Monica, his response wasn't agreement or denial, but a vague "I don't think so" or "I don't remember." After I grilled him for a bit longer about how "I don't think so" isn't an answer, he pulled up their chats and searched for the conversation using keywords and successfully found it. He said his memory of the conversation was very vague, but he couldn't explain why. After the previous conversation, I demanded to know everything that might be important for me to know. The last thing I wanted was to find out more through a third party. He repeatedly said that he didn't remember anything else, but I just had that gut feeling again. I knew there must be more. So my boyfriend went out of his way to dig through absolutely everything. Every app, friend list, blocked list, screenshot, and conversation. When I woke up, I found several messages from him about how scared he was that I'd break up with him after today. I called him, and he laid out the information. He had found 4 girls in his Skype blocked list. He vaguely remembered all 4 of them and how he had relationships with them before we had met. All of them were from mid-2017, the period between Allison and me. No biggie. However, he found another girl that he simply had no recollection of, named Sarah. Their first and only conversation was in March 2019, just a few months before our 2-year anniversary. I was buying tickets to see him at that time. The conversation log was short, just a few "hey" and "are you ready?" 4 pictures of Sarah with her friends, 1 of Sarah's face, and 1 hour 30-minute call. There were 2 more messages from Sarah that were sent around mid and late 2019, reading "hi" and "I miss you," presumably sent after she had been blocked. My boyfriend also found a blocked Snapchat contact with the same name. Well, it was definitely rough on my little heart. He claimed he didn't remember anything. He had no idea how they met, who she is, what they did, or why. I tried to justify it. Maybe she was a coworker, a classmate, a friend he briefly played games with, but he couldn't remember. He just sadly admitted that it was probably safe to assume that he cheated. He must have had a few calls with her and exchanged some nudes. He probably felt guilty and just erased the memory from his brain. He claimed that he couldn't remember because she was purely just porn for him. There was no emotional connection. but I still couldn't understand how the hell such a heavy thing can be so easily forgotten. I just have no clue. I do have a vague memory of him using chat sites around that time. We met on one of those sites, and they can be a decent way to find friends, which he said he was doing. It now seems like he was using the site for cheating as well. And since he doesn't remember any of it, there's probably a good possibility that Sarah wasn't the only one he cheated on me with. How many girls did he flirt with that didn't add him on Snapchat or Skype? How many did he exchange nudes with on the app itself? I don't know, and he doesn't either. I'm just so lost and confused right now. I'm immensely hurt. It feels like everything I've known about this guy, everything we built together, has just crumbled. I don't know how I'm supposed to trust him anymore. He's pretty much ruined me forever. If a relationship as perfect as ours ended up being so horribly flawed, is there really any point in trusting anyone again? I feel gross and broken and disgusted. I'm on a major emotional roller coaster because, as much as I want to throw up every time I think about him, and this, I also love him so dearly, and I don't want to lose him. He's my best friend, the most amazing boyfriend ever, and our relationship up until this point was nothing but green flags. It was my biggest pride. I didn't know a single couple that was as perfect as us. And now it's all gone. Begun questioning myself too, and it's scary. I should probably mention that my boyfriend has a big porn addiction. I had a huge issue with it once we started dating. I consider it to be mild cheating. And it makes me feel awful and insecure, but I never had the guts to stand up for my needs and set boundaries, because this behavior is acceptable in most relationships. I spoke to him about it multiple times throughout the relationship, but was mostly shut down with porn is not cheating. I've been doing this my whole life, or my favorite. I can try to stop, but no promises. I spent so much time crying about this and hating myself because of it. I hated knowing that my partner always fantasized about other women and had preferences and needs that I couldn't fulfill, but I lived with it. It was only a few months ago when we had a proper heart-to-heart and he promised to cut out this behavior. I suffered this for the last 4 years. I got used to it, learned how to push away the intrusive thoughts and ignore it. It really wasn't that bad. I felt really loved and appreciated. It was just that little thought in the back of my head that I couldn't really get rid of. I figured I already had the most amazing relationship, and this insecurity-inducing behavior was the only small thing keeping it from perfection. So maybe that's why hearing about Sarah wasn't the biggest blow. My boyfriend was getting off to other women throughout our whole relationship, and while this is undeniably much worse, I'm already used to feeling like about these things. It's been a part of me for so long, so I can't help but wonder, are my standards on the floor? How much lower can they really get? If I didn't even consider breaking up with him after hearing such awful information, how much am I willing to put up with? Will I stay if he cheats again? I don't even know anymore. I'm scared he's not the person I thought he was, and I'm signing up for a relationship of pain and suffering. I don't want to be treated like garbage. I want to be loved, without any needs or fantasies unfulfilled. I want to be enough. Ever since D-Day, my boyfriend has been doing everything in his power to be better. It's only been a few days, but he's genuinely trying. I can see his pain and remorse. He's been crying, he never cries. Barely eating or sleeping, he's lost a few pounds. I can hear the pain in his voice every time I open up about my feelings. He's undeniably sorry and is doing everything to make me feel better. He's blocking websites and finding solutions to his addiction, reading numerous articles, writing lists and voicing his feelings, and is fully focused on improving. He's been giving me space when I need it, supporting me and showing love when I need it, and has been very open with his thoughts and feelings. We've been talking a lot too. He's being a wonderful listener and actively encouraging me to speak my mind and be as blunt as possible. He wants to learn from his mistakes and be aware of the hard-hitting truth. We've been doing exercises of putting him in my shoes. I present him with imaginary scenarios where he's forced to see my perspective, for example. Imagine you found me getting off to guy X. He then asks questions he'd ask if he was in that place, and then answers them. It's been helping a lot, and I can tell how much it hurts him to understand the pain that I'm in. Finding out these disgusting things about him did change my perspective, but I feel like I still know him, at least a little bit. And I know very well that he's capable of change and that he truly cares. I can still see a future with him. I can see the times when we'll be happy together again. Or maybe I'm just being optimistic. The trust has been destroyed and he's left me with a permanent scar, so I feel genuinely lost. But I feel like I can live with it. Maybe even get over it someday. Like I mentioned, my emotions are still a huge roller coaster. One minute I feel positive and hopeful, and then I'm shaking and sobbing the next. It feels like there's an awkwardness between us now. My boyfriend is being very cautious, no compliments, implications, or trigger words. He knows that he's me up and that my confidence has tanked. I don't want him to see me. I feel gross thinking about the fact that I've let him get so close to me before. I feel violated and I just want to cover up and hide. We both cried about how much we wish we could just go back by a few days to the time before this. But even with this, I know the relationship is worth fixing, and if my gut isn't up and lying to me, it tells me that I should stay with him and that it'll be worth it. I've never met anyone as great as him. We're a perfect pair. He's absolutely amazing and I don't think I'll find anyone like him ever again. But I just don't know. He's still the love of my life, and I still believe that I'm his. So I'm putting my last bit of trust in him to see him change and fix this. Please wish me luck. Sorry this was so long. If anyone here has been in a similar situation, please share some thoughts, mayhaps even some advice from other WS about how I should handle things. I know that it's my time to be taken care of, and I have every right to vent and be as mean as possible. But I don't want my words to damage my partner either. He has feelings too, and I can tell it's been very hard on him. Maybe some recommendations of what he can do to help me with the panic and pain. I definitely need some support and some words of encouragement. Thank you.